Hello and welcome to the Salt City Gamescast. My name is Ignather. This is episode 132. We're here. We're here again. Not a lot of games are coming out, but there's some shows that are out. We got a fun cocktail in front of us. It's called the Golden Rye. This came in from the introductions. Jerry Nolan, welcome to the show.
Hi, I am very sore, very sore right now. I feel like I got hit by a fucking car. First outing of the year, playing golf, so a little sore. But
just stretch.
No, I mean I did a little bit, but like I didn't do what I should have done. But here's the saving grace, Nick. It's 420, so I'm gonna medicate myself.
We're smoking pot on the show today, everyone.
Yeah, this is that. Yeah, the cocktail that you reference is just weed. So
just a glass of butts.
No, that's not true. I brought over my bong, and we're gonna have a good time.
Good times. You went golfing. How'd it go?
It was pretty bad.
Okay,
it was pretty rough. 5 months without playing. Without swinging a club, you're always going to struggle. And the frustrating thing is I was just fucking cracking it on the range, just absolutely destroying the ball, hitting great drives, straight, good distance, hitting all of my irons fairly well and hitting my woods well. Got up to the first tee and just could not put it together. I mean, I hit some decent shots, but overall, it was not great.
Yeah. Well, it's first time of the year, right? Did you guys go much in the winter at all?
No, I mean, we went to California to play in the wintertime. So, and that was like a week of golf. That was a lot of golf. Maybe too much golf, I would say.
It was like every day?
Not every day, but almost every day.
Yeah.
And 18 holes, So, yeah, it was like 5 rounds of golf in a week. So, yeah.
That's pretty serious.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a good time. It was beautiful, and the place is beautiful. But so the wintertime, there is a place near my place that's like an indoor golf simulator. And we were thinking about doing that, but it's like a subscription service. So you got to pay, I think it's like $100 a month. And we were just like, no.
It's like a gym.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, it's like 24 hours. You can just go in there, and I'm sure that there are like creeps that are out there.
24.
Yeah, it's 24 hours.
Why?
I don't know. Because maybe someone wants to go at 3 a.m. and hit balls. I have no idea. But yeah, you just come and like scan a little key card thing, and then they let you in, and you can go hog wild.
And I need more information. I need to know how many people are there at 2 a.m. Like I kind of understand the 24-hour gyms. Like I can see how there's some people that there might be 4 people in the gym in the middle of the night, I guess.
Yeah.
People work graveyard, whatever. I don't know.
You got to fine tune your craft, Nick.
Yeah, I guess. I'm trying to fine tune my craft, but it's making cocktails. So
yeah, you're doing a pretty good job of that.
We have this is a listener submitted cocktail. The Sandstorm on the Discord posted a TikTok of this guy making it. And it's called the Golden Rye, as in like golden eye. And I think the whole point is there's a lemon in the bottom of your glass, and I think that's supposed to be like the eye, the beginning of the Bond game.
Yeah, golden eye.
Shit. But this thing's pretty good. It's got lime juice. It's got a lot of ingredients. But it's basically rye whiskey, lime juice, manzanilla sherry. And then I had to make a honey simple syrup, which is easy enough. And then I had to buy a ginger syrup, which I haven't done anything with ginger, like a ginger syrup like this. And I'm kind of thinking I should, because I think that's kind of what sets this cocktail apart, at least as far as like a whiskey sour goes. That ginger is pretty good. I like this cocktail quite a bit. So thank you for sending in this.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking good. It kind of is like a mix between like a whiskey sour, the flavor profile, and also like some sort of like medicinal, like aromatic cocktail. Like what's a good example? Like a Negroni or something like that.
Maybe it's
like a vegetal a little bit, but I'm into it.
It was a little tricky to find the sherry, but I found it. So
where did you find it?
At the wine store.
Okay.
So obviously we've talked about our Utah liquor stores or our liquor laws, and it's a little tough to get anything outside the norm. But we do have a pretty good wine store here that has a good variety, and I went there, and I didn't ask for help because I'm a coward, but I found it on my own just randomly. It's like
that's good. You don't like asking for help?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, it depends on the setting and scenario where I'm like, am I going to feel like an absolute moron asking? And then other times I'm like so overwhelmed by whatever I'm trying to find that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go fucking just go
Oh,
right to the source.
I don't mind asking for help if there's someone obviously available.
Yeah.
It's just like our liquor stores don't really just have people wandering the aisles to help you. So
Yeah.
you're either like the cashiers are doing a job,
Mhm.
or you're like going to the back and being like, hey, you back there.
Yeah.
Where's the sherry? And
Yeah.
then they're like, wait, leave me alone. I'm unboxing this truck, dude. So that's kind of my reasoning, where it's just like, yeah, I don't want to go and bother anyone.
Kind of got an interesting story about that. I think I've told you this, but it was like a number of Christmases ago. I was going to get a nice bottle for my girlfriend's nephew. And, we had a pretty large budget for it. And so I was tasked with purchasing it.
Bottle of whiskey?
Yeah, whiskey. Yeah, whiskey. And so they basically gave me free reign to pick something because, like, within her family, they're like, yeah, he's the degenerate drunk, so he'll fucking find the good one. And I went to a liquor store. I think it was the wine store, if I remember correctly. And I was just looking at a bunch of bottles, just deciding which one I was going to pick for this dude. And this guy randomly came up to me, another customer, and was like, do you know anything about whiskey? And I was like, I mean, I don't know a ton about whiskey, but like I drink a lot of whiskey. And and he was like, what's a good one? And I was like, oh, well, what do you like? And he kind of gave me like some, things that he liked. And so I kind of picked a few, and I was like, these are all solid. It just depends on your budget. And at the same point that this was happening, an employee at the liquor store came up and was like, do you need help with anything? And I was like, I don't, I'm good. I'm just browsing. And the guy that was speaking to me was like, yeah, I'm just like kind of curious about like some good whiskey recommendations. And the dude was like, yeah, like this guy told me that these ones are good. And these are the things I like. It's basically the same thing that he told me. And the employee just like said, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but like everything that came out of his mouth was wrong. It was just like completely wrong. And it just reminded me of the Ron Swanson bit where he's like walking through Home Depot and the guy's like, do you need help? And Ron Swanson just looks at him and is like, I know more than you. And, like, it was just like, wait, okay. And thankfully the guy was like, I'm going to go with this dude's selection and pick the thing that I recommended. But it was very funny. And I was also like, who you just fucking let anybody do this? And the answer is yes.
Yes,
they just let anybody do this.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
I remember running into things like that at GameStops.
Sure.
That was ripe for people with misinformation, and they were trying to push pre-orders well past when you needed to pre-order to make sure you got to play the game on day one.
Yeah.
And I remember it was probably one of the Modern Warfares, and this dude was just like talking to this lady. He's like, they came out and said that they weren't going to print very many. And it was like, fucking what? Like, what are you talking about over there?
That shit's super predatory and gross. I mean, for a long period of time, that was just the way it was. Yeah, I remember vividly back when I used to buy games from fucking GameStop. They'd be like, you better pre-order this. Like, you don't want to miss out. And dumb Jared would be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That went away pretty quick once the carts were no longer what they were using, I think. And then right around that time, they even figured out the carts and everything. So,
yeah.
As far as games, like the game's sold out.
Right.
Okay. Like CD-ROMs, like they figured it out. I don't know.
Like right.
Mid-2000s.
It's also like now it's like that game is sold out. No, it literally I can go and get it whenever I want to. That's just the way it works now. Sorry. So. But yeah, overall doing all right, Nick. Ready to talk about games or not games? Yeah. What do you want to talk about? Let's get into it.
I want to talk about Fallout. Because one, I haven't had the opportunity to talk a lot of Fallout on this show because they don't make the games very often. And the most recent one was Fallout 76, which did not launch well. People have come around on it quite a bit. I've read a bunch of stuff, and there's some people out there enough so that I loaded it up, and it's still a little janky. I don't know that I'm ever going to come to this podcast with some info, but I did play like maybe an hour.
I feel like you need to give it more.
I know.
Because it's so large now and there's so many expansions and things like that from what I've seen is like, yeah, you got to dig your teeth into it, but there's something there now.
I'm kind of just debating having it be something I tinker with, because I've played all the other Fallouts, so it's like that one there. It's like, well, I got to play it at some point in my brain, because I really like this series. I literally played Fallout 1 within a year of release. I was at a friend's house, and that thing, if you don't know what it is, that's overhead, and it's extremely tedious. And to go back to now is a little difficult if you did not play it. I could go back to them and probably enjoy them, but they're a lot, and they were quite difficult and punishing, but they're very quirky. And part of the joy in that series is that it's extremely goofy, and it's while it can take itself seriously, you'll also, the next room you go in, you're just like, what the fuck is going on in here? And I love that about it. I really do. And so Amazon has made an 8-episode season. My expectations are on the floor, like, for this thing. And then it came out, and I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score is quite high, 95% or something. And I was like, okay. And then I watched an episode, and I was like, oh, didn't hate it. It was quirky. It was ridiculous. And maybe could have had a bigger budget, but like right away after one episode, I was like, they did a few things that are really like, they understand maybe they understand more than the Bethesda games, just like what makes a good Fallout, and the tone and the mood. I feel like the show is done really well. How far are you in the show?
Halfway through.
How has it landed so far with you?
I haven't hated it at all. I think that it's decent, but I haven't been like wowed by it either. The thing that has stuck out most to me is just how reverent it is to like the source material, the sets, a lot of the objects that you see. If you played any of the Fallout games, you immediately would be like, oh yeah, that's a thing that I've seen in the game. So from that perspective, they've definitely used the source material well. The vaults in particular, which obviously the show starts out in, and then also is jumping back and forth to different sequences in vaults throughout the duration of the series. Those vaults look like a vault in Fallout. So very cool from that perspective. I've really liked all of the set dressing and things like that. But yeah, I'm going to reserve judgment, like full judgment, until I'm through it. I have had I felt like there was kind of some ups and downs so far, some fairly weak episodes, and then some actually quite good episodes with some good characters, a lot of humor in this. It's very edgy, I would say. Like, it's very violent. There's a lot of sex in it, and that's kind of foreign for Fallout. Like, obviously, like, there's always been tongue-in-cheek jokes about sex and like violence, and like the VAT system can allow you to be incredibly violent and blow people's heads up and things like that. But I don't know, maybe it's just like the realization of it, like in real, like live action, that makes it more serious. I don't know.
I'll say overall, there's not a ton of sex.
There's not a ton,
but there's
definitely like more sex than there is in Fallout that I've seen.
Absolutely. Yeah, we aren't anywhere near like Game of Thrones territory.
No.
Kind of the throwbacks, like whatever you want to call them, like Easter eggs or things that you're just like, I've played the games and I know what this is. There are a lot, and I think a lot of them are really cool. It'll be as easy or as simple as like the vaults or the bobbleheads, and they all have Pip-Boys, which are so large and encumbersome. It always cracks me up.
Yeah. But they're very true to like their in-game counterparts, which I appreciate. You know what I mean?
And I was gonna say, I'll try to keep any like story spoilers to a minimum, so you can kind of.
We should note that this is like an original story, so like you're not really getting a lot. I mean, there might be some tie-ins that I haven't saw, but like overall, this is like a self-contained story outside of the video games.
Definitely, it's the latest. So I spent a little time just kind of reading up on it. This is the latest. It's after all the other video games. But I don't want to necessarily say that it's tying into them so much as like clearly in the same world. There are cities that are not doing well that have done well in the games, and you encounter them. And like there's a lot of that, and they have some lore dumps there at the end that is kind of more information about the vaults and how they were created than we've ever gotten.
Right.
Like in any of the games, and it's actually super interesting, and it answers some questions about just why the vaults are so weird and things like that. Like they are really out there. There's a lot of like you go to like the grocery store, I think it's like the Super Duper Mart, all that stuff is like those have been in all the games. The dog is there, dog meat.
Yeah. They don't call it dog meat that I've seen.
They do eventually.
Okay. Yeah.
Walter does.
I was like, it's dog meat.
Yep.
And my girlfriend was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's dog meat. And she was like, its name is X04C11, not dog meat. And I was just like, just fucking wait. Okay.
Yeah. Do you know the origin of him in the first game? It's very funny.
No.
You find him randomly in like a in the first game you would travel, there was like an overhead map and you'd say, hey, walk there, there's a town. Someone pointed it out, like the geographic coordinates. And then you would just see a line travel, and then you would have like a encounter, almost like in a JRPG, right? And sometimes they were good, sometimes they were someone selling stuff or raiders or stuff. And like, I don't remember the exact scenario, but basically either the dog was getting attacked or you saved him or whatever, but you would gain him as this companion that was just always there for combat encounters. The catch is that dog meat tanked your luck. He gave you, so like your guns would backfire, and it was just a really a negative for the game. And he was always there. And if he died, the next battle, fucking there he is again. He's just back.
So he's just a fucking cumbersome aspect of the game. Was there a way to get rid of him?
It was a long time ago, so maybe, but I don't recall. All I remember is I was just like, this fucking dog, man.
Where was the first two games? Like, what areas were they set in?
They are West Coast.
Okay, so like California.
Yeah, so 3, because like Fallout 2 introduces the NCR, like New California Republic, and that I believe was in Fallout 3.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
No, it couldn't have been.
Well, I know
3 was
maybe it's New Vegas.
It has to be, right? Because 3 was in Washington, so there's no way.
Yes,
that
correct. 3 was in Washington, and 4 was in Boston. 76 was in West Virginia.
So, but those first 2 games were absolutely like West Coast.
Got it.
And then they were making a third that was codenamed like Van Buren, but I don't know where that was set. And that game was almost done. And I kind of wish that someone somewhere would be like, "Here you go," because it's set in the old style.
It's pretty wild that hasn't been dug up by somebody. You know, we see that all the time where like not completely made games just surface. And are in the wild.
There's a lot of the beginning of the game, or the show. Lucy's like talking about her abilities, kind of doing in this interview thing, and talking about the things she excels at, which is literally just you picking your character and your speech stats and stuff. That's pretty funny. Do
you like Lucy as a character?
Yeah.
I don't know if I am completely on board with Lucy. The okie dokie thing throws me off a bit. She is likable from the perspective of like this puritanical soul that, has been raised in this very like insular community.
I mean, her arc is it was pretty clear what they were going to do with her. So I don't know if this is like a spoiler, because I felt like I knew it about halfway through. It was pretty clear to me that Lucy was going to see some shit.
Yeah.
And she was going to evolve and become
a
more
like that,
hardened
that's
person.
That's where I'm kind of at. She just went through the sequence in the Super Duper Mart where the the robot,
Mr. Handy.
Yeah, Mr. Handy went after her, and like that whole sequence was pretty cool. And like clearly at the end of that, she has kind of shifted, right? She emerges from the supermarket to the ghoul character, Walton Goggins' character, and like very clearly has changed a bit. So yeah, like again, like I'll reserve judgment, like, and I don't hate it. I think that it's quite I think it's good. I just have not been like knocked over by it. I just think that it's fine at this point in time.
I absolutely love some of the tongue-in-cheek stuff where it's just like the robot's like, I'll fix your hand, and he puts this dead ass finger on her hand, and then it worked because she lost a finger, spoiler, but like they put this dead ass finger and then it works. She's like, thank you so much. And I'm like, ew, gross.
Yeah,
like,
it's pretty gross. There's another sequence earlier on where a dude gets his foot shot off and then they put like a robot foot on it. And it looks like the most so horrible, painful experience. Like, and it's like very clunky as well. But yeah, like I think the shining point for me is Walton Goggins. I really like him as an actor. Anybody that is a big fan of Danny McBride's work will know Walton Goggins. He's been in quite a few of Danny McBride's things. Vice Principals is probably my favorite of him. And then he's also in The Righteous Gemstones right now, which has its moments, but is not nearly as strong as some of McBride's other stuff. But I'm a big fan of Danny McBride. I think he's fucking hilarious. And so
he's he's really good in this show.
Yeah, Walton Goggins is hilarious. He's like, he seems like a really cool dude at like in person as well, from what I've seen. And so he does great. He does great. I think that the prosthetics and makeup and things like that, the way that they portray ghouls in this show is very reminiscent of the video game. So like that's the thing that I think a lot of things that I am like I have reverence for or love when they are one medium and then shifted into like live action film or TV. I'm always very apprehensive because I'm okay with you taking some different paths in terms of like story and characters. But I think a lot of times directors and writers are just like, we're just going to fuck this whole thing up and like make it our own thing. And like, I just don't know if that's the best course to take when it comes to like making something based off of an already established IP. I just think that that's divisive. And for me, like I've always really I've struggled with that in the past with like other things that have been made. So it's nice to see that they've stuck pretty closely to like what you would expect a Fallout television series to be if you were to like imagine it in your mind. There's just not a lot like this is like a very like rompy action oriented show. And that's maybe the one thing that I would criticize the most about it is that like one of the beautiful things about Fallout, in my opinion, is like the dialogue and kind of the story arcs and how they go. And I know that's a difficult thing to kind of balance with a television show. But there's not a lot of that. And there's a lot of like explosions and shooty gun, sequences and things like that.
It moves quickly. I saw something online and this guy was actually being like, guys, like shows aren't supposed to be 8 seasons. They're supposed to be, they're not supposed to be 8 episodes. There's supposed to be 20 episodes with a bunch of filler. And I think we're missing stuff without the filler. Yeah. I don't know if I completely agree.
I don't agree with that.
But like filler does allow character development and it would allow some side stories. Like this is very main, like they have a goal and they are not getting sidetracked, except a very hilarious like throwback to like the people that play the games. Walter gets sidetracked. They're trying to get this head and then they have to go do something else. And he literally is walking, yelling. And he's like, every time we get sidetracked. And he's clearly talking about people playing the game.
Yeah, like doing side quests.
And you're trying to go do something and you get sidetracked by side quests. And that was like, thank you. Appreciate it.
I just, like that's the thing is like, it would be nice. And this is my girlfriend's criticism so far is she's like, it's just very fast paced. Right. Yeah. And, there's just like a lot of rich lore in the Fallout universe, right? There's a lot of different factions and like understandably so, like, because if you can like, envision society rebuilding itself after nuclear holocaust, that's the way things would be, things would shake out differently and there would be new factions and new, arms of power that would kind of spring up. And there's a lot of that in Fallout lore. And they don't really give it, at least from what I've seen, there's not a lot of that going on. Like not a lot of an explanation. It's just like we're here in the wasteland and we're doing wasteland stuff, which is fine. Like it's good. Like all of it's
For
good.
sure.
It's just like there's not a lot of like lore or storytelling revolving around that stuff, at least up to this point.
I mean, the end's pretty good. The end has some good stuff. One of the funny things, you meet that Mr. Handy robot. He's been in a lot of games, like with that British voice. Like it's a recognizable character. In one of the flashbacks, you meet the voice, the guy. Like, and that's very funny.
Yeah, he's great. What is his name?
I don't remember, but but when he like met him in the flashback to before when like all the bombs dropped,
Matt Berry is his name.
He starts talking, and I'm like, hey, that's cool.
Yeah, Matt Berry is. If anybody, you included, I don't know if you've watched What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, it's hilarious.
Have you seen the movie? Is that what you're talking about?
I don't remember which one we watched.
Okay, so there was a movie initially.
Which one says werewolves, not swearwolves, or something?
That's the movie.
Okay, well,
yeah, that movie is incredible. Yeah, so with funny. Like the like Nosferatu style Dracula that lives in the basement and his name's like Larry or something like that. It's pure gold. It's Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords fame. Yeah. They wrote it, but they've done a television show for probably like 4 or 5 seasons now on FX. It is one of my favorite TV shows. I highly recommend that you watch it. You should watch it.
I love the movie.
Fucking hilarious. And Matt Berry is one of the main characters who is the voice of Mr. Handy, and he is pure fucking gold. Basically the whole premise of the TV show is these 3 vampires that live in New Jersey in this house, and just the crazy shit that happens with them. And it's so fucking funny, dude. It is so good. It's such a good TV show. So sorry to sidetrack.
No worries. I'm interested to see what you think of the end. They're clearly, they've already greenlit the next season, which is nice. They pretty much immediately did. And then they've clearly held quite a bit back. There are a lot of different things within the games that are very common in the games that are not in this, which is probably a good decision, because I think with 8 episodes is pretty much fine. And then I absolutely know other things that can show up. They'll be like, oh, that'll be very cool. My wife's enjoying it. I've watched the season 1 half times because I watched it and then I watch it with her and she's behind. So I've seen like the first 4 episodes twice or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. We're definitely going to keep on plowing through it. Both of us are enjoying it. It's just good to see, we've been getting like
some okay made ones, right? Like The Last of Us was pretty good. It's nice to see that it can be done. And even if we're not like, I really like The Last of Us. I like this one. Like, it's just like, it's not terrible, right? It's not like, oh my God.
Yeah. And historically they have been terrible. I'm looking at you, Blood Rain.
Like Halo exists.
Oh yeah. That's not good either, in my opinion. I couldn't even like get through 3 episodes of that because I thought that it was not good. But like, yeah, there's always going to be stinkers out there, but it is nice to see some video game IPs getting television shows or movies that are doing well. There was a lot of rumors that they were doing Zelda. I don't know if that's been scrapped. There was a long period of time. It was like they were doing a live action Zelda show on Netflix. What other ones were somewhat interesting? There was another one that really like kind of perked my ears up when I heard about it, but I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, ultimately, it's cool to see.
The Mario movie is good for what it's trying to do.
Sure, I still haven't seen it.
I've seen it a lot at this point because I have a daughter. But
is she into it?
Well, we stopped watching it because Bowser was giving her nightmares, so we haven't circled back. But we watched it pretty frequently for quite some time.
I can understand Bowser over the Rhino.
Yeah.
Rhino, I guess, is pretty scary too.
for sure. Kind of a little sidetrack, but my daughter, I've been playing a little bit of Final Fantasy VII. Without any encouragement from me, I'm just in the kitchen, and it's like bath time. She's in there with my wife, and I hear her, and she's going, no, 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 no. And Annie's like, what is that? And I'm like, I know what that is. It's hilarious.
Oh man, that is great.
As soon as she learns to read, we're gonna get somewhere. So yeah, she'll just walk by through the house and she's singing that song. I'm like, you don't even know what that is.
Clearly she does, Nick.
Oh, well.
Clearly she does. That's fantastic and adorable as well.
It's pretty funny.
I little side note here. I saw your little clip on Instagram of the balloon getting sucked into the fan, and why don't you talk about that a little bit, because it was very funny.
Basically, I'm in the basement. That's where my master bedroom is, and my daughter comes running into the room, and I just had a feeling it was going to be something funny, so I started recording her, and she's like, the balloon went into the fan, the fan's not working anymore, and you gotta come quick. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, all right. So I record me like going into the room, and like she had this like what do they call them, not like it's like the fancy birthday balloon, like the foil one, or whatever you want.
Yeah.
So like she has, I was playing with it in a room and then let it go, and it went up into the moving fan, and then the fan, like I walk in there and it's trapped. It hasn't popped, and all of the ribbon is wrapped around this thing, and I'm like, oh no. And she's like, yeah, I know. Oh no. But what's funnier, like I freed the balloon, but we have a camera in there for her essentially as a monitor, so I have it all on tape of what happened. And like, she's like playing with the balloon and then just like forgets and wanders over to like her dresser. And then you just hear like this banging, because you can't actually see the fan, but you can see her. And she looks up just awestruck, and she clearly has no idea what to do. And it's just like, blah, 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 blah. And she's just like, no, like can't move for like 5 seconds maybe. And then she just says, I gotta go get my dad. And runs out of the room,
like panic, not calm. She's like, I gotta go get my dad. As she runs off, which makes it even better. I just want to highlight this. I'm pretty sure she's wearing a cape in this in this video, which makes it even better. I just have to say, she's just coming with like the fucking heat right now.
It's so funny.
We got Reese's penis, and now we've got fucking balloon antics. Man, I just like, man,
she's very funny. It's
I love living vicariously through you, Nick.
It's really great. Just this morning, she's really gotten affectionate with me, which she was not for the first few years. It was a rough go, right?
Yeah.
And she's turned the corner and decided like he's all right. And she said something nice to me at the table, and then started to pick her nose. And I was like, hey, that really makes me feel good when you say something like that. And she looked at me and she says, I'm swirling my finger all around in my nose. And I said, I love you too. It's like, so yeah, she's very funny, and we laugh like nonstop. It's my house is like chaos. It just feels like it's an absolute disaster at all times. But I went like at all times. I like was fertilizing the roses yesterday, and Dave was eating the fertilizer at like the rate that I was feeding the roses. And I'm like reading the thing, and I'm like, is he going to die? Like, what is happening? And I can't get him. He like comes into the house like he's a cokehead. He's got fertilizer all over his nose because he's just been out there. I'm like, well, you got to stop. But if you're wondering, we are a video game podcast, so we do talk about games that we are playing. It's just a little slow right now. There's not a lot of big releases. But you sent me a message and you said, hey, Children of the Sun, we should check it out. We should play it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I did not finish it. I played it for a couple hours, I think. It's a pretty cool game. If you've played a Super Hot, that's a decent starting point. Super Hot was the game. It was like first person shooter that when you moved, you could see the bullets, and then you could dodge them and stuff like that.
We were struggling to remember what it was called a couple episodes ago as well.
So this is interesting because this is it's third person. You were just a sniper, and you kind of like spawn into the world, but you can only like run in this half radius arc kind of around the level.
You literally play this game with just your mouse.
Yeah. And so you can only run around the outside perimeter like a sniper would of, say, a village. And you've got to shoot and you've got to kill, like, say, 5 people. What's interesting is that you have to do it all with 1 bullet, I believe. Maybe you get...
No, that's accurate.
Okay, so at least as far as I've played, but when you shoot and hit someone, you then get to turn and aim the bullet another direction from where that impact. And that's how the game starts. And they layer on other mechanics. I'm interested. I know you finished it, so I'm interested to see if there's any more that I've gotten to. But it's a fascinating game. I thought it was quite enjoyable, at least to start to work through some of the missions, because they start to, like, hey, you can slow the bullet down and kind of guide it a little bit to the left and the right. And then that helps you kind of like loop around these door frames.
Right.
And you're really kind of figuring out a puzzle, because you'll not get them all and you just got to redo it again.
Yeah.
And you can mark all the guys. And then there's some guys that get armor and you have to speed that bullet up, and it's got to hit a certain speed in order to take them out. And that's kind of where I got to. I don't know if anything else gets layered on after that, but I think this is a neat game. It's like $15 or something like that.
Yeah, it's $15. It's a very quick game as well. You can finish it in an afternoon for sure. Which I did. And yeah, like definitely feel the same way about it. I think it's really cool. This is my kind of puzzle game. I'll say that.
Sure.
It's definitely like a good mix of like sniper elite, super hot, with like some weird trajectory puzzle that you might have seen in other games. And I think it works quite well. Really the biggest goal is to do it as fast as possible. There is a active leaderboard for every mission, which I'm just going to come out and say this. One guy is the best at every level. I verified this. He is number 1 in the world on every single level in the game. And his gamer tag is 75,000 waffles. So, so good for you, 75,000 waffles. You are fucking really knocking it out of the park. And
that's
like
a good name.
Godly scores. Like I think the highest I got on any of the leaderboards was in the top 100, which I was like, yeah, top 100 is pretty fucking good. Mm-hmm. And he was like 30,000 points away from where I was at, and I'm just like, I don't understand what you're doing.
You're like, I did it pretty fast.
Yeah, you have to go very fast. There is penalties for the length of time that you're in a level, so speed is paramount in this. The amount of shots fired also will give you negative points against your overall score. So there are setups and scenarios that I have seen where you're taking out multiple enemies with one shot, right? And that's like layering on the complexity even more, which
like
I think
hitting propane or something and killing a bunch.
Well, sometimes like that, but it's like they'll line up in like a perfect trajectory of one another, and they're close enough that it counts as one shot.
Interesting,
right? So it's very interesting from that perspective. And yeah, this is just a score attack game at the end of the day, right? Like you are definitely vying to do the best run you possibly can. There are ways within the game to kind of map a route. If you had really good success with a route, you can tell the game to save that route so that when you come back to that level at another time, it'll show you the route that you used.
You have an idea of what you can, a jumping off point.
And then you can also build off of that, right? Like this route worked pretty well. But let's see if I can, even do better with this similar route or tweak it slightly. So it's very cool from that perspective. All of this is like underpinned by this like really grimy and gross art style. It's very violent, and the basic story, there's no dialogue in the story. You're essentially presented the story through like a series of vignettes that show like all of these terrible things happening to the character that you play as in relation to this like fucking cult. And it's fucked up, man. It's real fucked up. Like, I don't want to go too deep into like some of the later stuff that you see, but it's very terrible. And when you first start playing, you don't really have like a lot of understanding as to why this creepy character you're playing as is killing all these people. But then when you get further in, you're like, yep, these people deserve to die. These people are terrible. So Yeah, as far as like layered mechanics, you said that you got the trajectory speed up to take out armored enemies.
Yes.
I think that that's it, because if I'm not mistaken, you get the ability to if you hit weak points on enemies, like reshoot your bullet in midair. Maybe that's the last
That must be
mechanic.
the last one.
No, I don't think it is. I think you get it before, because there's one mission that I did last night specifically that I remember using that ability in tandem with the speed up trajectory.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure I had like a very solid understanding of how to reshoot a bullet. And
What do you
did
mean
not really
reshoot?
so what happens is there's weak points on all these enemies that will start glowing essentially. It might be an enemy's arm, it might be their legs. Like, you got to hit them in a specific spot. When you do hit them in a specific spot, there is a gauge that fills up around the reticle of the bullet, and once you get I think it takes 2 weak point hits to fill up 1 point of the gauge. So if you hit an enemy and then you're looking to shoot at another enemy, as the game is kind of paused, you can shoot, and midair, you right click on your mouse and it stops the bullet in midair. And then you can turn the bullet and change the trajectory. It doesn't stop completely, but it slows down the bullet even more so that you can hit enemies.
This sounds like why I couldn't beat the last level is the motel level thing, where you have to shoot like through the like doorway of a motel. You're on one side of it.
Yep,
and then
that's the one I'm talking about.
So that's why I couldn't beat it, because I don't know how to do the thing you're talking about.
Right click it once you fill up that gauge, and then it will stop the bullet in midair, and then you can change the trajectory.
I probably tried 15 times, because I was just like, what am I not getting? And I was trying to like hit this guy in the corner and then like loop it out and back in, and I was having just the
because if you hold right click, it will slow down the bullet and you can move it in midair. But if you click right click and you've got the requisite gauge filled up, it will stop the bullet more or less, and then you can redirect it. So that allows you to, so like in the instance of the beginning of that mission, you shoot through the hotel, you drill this one guy, and then there is like a dude on like a microphone in the back of a truck bed. You shoot like propane and it kills like him and a bunch of followers. And then there's a bunch of dudes like within the interior of this hotel that you kind of have to bounce the bullet off of. Once you get to one of the top guys on like the right hand side, you then shoot to the left or to the right, but optimally to the left of the hotel, out into the woods, and then you stop the bullet and then turn around, and then you can take out those other guys on the other side. So that's how it works. So that's a really cool mechanic, but yeah, that's really all that is available. What it starts to build on after that is more just layering on the amount of enemies that you have to take out. Towards the end of the game, it's not uncommon for you to have to take out 18 people in a level to progress. And so that's where it really starts to get difficult. There's also some enemy types that you haven't seen yet that really changed the gameplay. One in particular that has like a big bubble around them. And if you fire, and the bubble will like encompass like a bunch of enemies that you have to take out. But if you fire at the enemy that has the bubble will redirect your bullet in like really weird ways. So like if you shoot directly at the bubble, unpredictable ways. So if you shoot at the bubble and it goes straight into the bubble guy is going to push your bullet above the bubble, to the left, to the right of the bubble. And so you have to, but once he does that, his bubble goes down. Yeah. So you have to find out ways to like navigate that and like take out an enemy behind him. Exactly. So you've seen pretty much all the mechanics that the game has to offer, but I think that they do a really good job of layering on different enemy types and making it much more difficult towards the end of the game. So yeah, for its length and the price that it is, like if you have any interest in this, like I would recommend it. I think it's cool. I think that it's a cool thing. It's a Devolver Digital game. You know, they just pretty much make hits. It seems like
they could release more maps pretty painlessly.
Yeah, there's not a ton of content here. That would be like the one downside. It's very surface level. Aside from those shooting gallery sequences. There is like small like pseudo mini games that you have to complete in between missions sometimes that are kind of interesting. But aside from that, that's pretty much the game, right? But it's a nice game to spend a couple hours with and mess around with. I think that it's kind of very brilliant in a lot of ways in the way that they've set up these environments you kind of have to navigate with the game mechanics. And, I think the story serves its purpose. And overall, I would recommend this game.
These size games are just interesting because they're kind of just a nice proof of concept on stuff that's just like, maybe someone takes parts of this and puts it into a larger game that comes out. Because
100%.
They're able to come up with pretty unique ideas at this size.
Yeah.
And where sometimes in like the big AAA space, you just don't quite see it.
Yeah.
Like the risk involved, I guess.
Right.
So that someone proves that it works. You're like, well, that's cool. You could probably use that in different ways.
For sure. I agree with that. And one thing that I would also add about this is like, a lot of times with puzzle games, I get really fatigued. There are challenging levels in this game that really make you think, and you're going to bang your head against the wall trying to figure it out. Oftentimes I get really frustrated with that, and I'm like, nah, nope. I don't care. I don't care enough. But with this one, I just like found myself like repeating because I was like making small incremental progression and understanding the level even more every single time I did something different.
You can't Google the answer for this game, because if you Google the answer, you just need to stop playing the game.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
The last level in the game is fucking pretty tough. And like, it took me the longest. I probably did like 50 tries.
Dang.
And you really, because it's very angle specific, like you can't finish it unless you're in like very specific angles when you start it. And like, also there is like some level of like physics RNG that's involved, that if you fuck up, you kind of have to start over again. And you're lowering shields on this like compound, and you have to like take out certain amounts of enemies in like sectors to lower different levels of the shield to get like to the area that you want to get ultimately. And it's a lot, dude. It's like it is a long sequence, and a large portion of like the trial and error of that last level was like doing the level in like chunks, right? So I got down like the first bit of it, like, and I knew it like the back of my hand. I was like, I could do this over and over again. And then like getting to that certain point and then having to learn that next sequence to make it all work, right? And then very satisfying when you put it all together, because it's like I said, you have to take out certain enemies in like a specific path that like the game doesn't tell you. Like you have to figure it out yourself. And like per shield that you have to take down, I think it's probably 6 to 10 enemies per shield. Damn. So you got to figure it out like in chunks.
Those are pretty tough to figure out each, like getting that 6.
Yeah, because a lot of the enemies are like hidden as well.
Yeah.
They're in like houses and shit, or they're moving around the map in like specific manners. So like, and it's all like, as soon as you fire your
so you gotta
as soon as you fire that first shot, and keep in mind, like technically you're using one bullet to take out all of these enemies and like ultimately take out the final enemy in the map. Like it's all timing based. So you kind of have to watch and wait for enemies to move in the right space before you fire as well, which makes it pretty complicated. And I got kind of bent out of shape a little bit.
You're just like, what the fuck?
Well, because I wanted to finish it because I knew it was on the last level, and it was like 11 o'clock last night. And I was just like, God damn it. Like, I just want to finish this. And I'm fucking busy all day in the day. So like, I just want to be able to come and like talk about this game in its totality. I got it, but it took me longer than I wanted. But it was satisfying when I finally like put it all together. Immediately I was like, man, I just kind of want to go back to this level specifically and like try to optimize this. Right. But fucking 75,000 waffles
he's already got it figured out. What's the point?
I don't understand how he's done every single one. Every level is fucking 75,000 waffles. I want to know who this guy is.
Listen, if you are 75,000 waffles, join the Discord and come talk to us.
Jesus Christ.
Tell us how you did it. Was there a nice Was there a nice scene after the credits?
No.
No teasers.
No,
Okay.
this is just a horrible, depressing, terrible story. I mean, if you find, which I do, absolutely
Like
find
revenge
revenge
stories,
stories
yeah.
satisfying from that perspective, maybe, but like there isn't like a happy moment in this game. It is all depression and sadness, and it's like
Yeah.
really terrible. I've seen it compared to that Nicolas Cage movie Mandy, and I think that's like surely that was like a big inspiration for that. Have you seen that movie?
Mhm.
You should watch that movie.
It's gonna make me sad.
No, it might
Okay.
disturb you a little bit. It's
Okay.
very weird and like what's the best word to use? I don't know. It's very psychedelic is the best way to describe it, but it's a pretty interesting watch. Like I wouldn't describe it as a good movie, but can you describe a lot of Nick Cage movies as good movies? Very few.
Like everyone I've ever seen.
Okay,
is
well
up
then
there
you-
with the best movie I've ever seen.
Okay, then you'll
They're all
like
just
Mandy.
competing. They're all just on
Yeah,
same
yeah.
line.
I forget that you're a big Nick Cage guy. Yeah,
Greatest actor of our generation.
certainly one of the most active.
Dude just works.
Yeah.
Good for him.
God damn.
Real quick, we've been trying to watch Avatar 2 for like 3 months.
Good.
And the problem that my daughter has with it is that it's too boring. And I'm like, I don't know that that's the problem, but okay, whatever.
My girlfriend and I went and saw that in theaters, and we walked out halfway through. Like,
I don't think I'm on board like other people are for Avatar. I would like to finish it, but yeah.
she, as we were walking out of the movie theater, I was like, so at what point did you get bored? And she was like, I don't know. There's just so much water. It was just like water. And at first I was like, this water is cool. But then I was like, there's too much water. And I was like, yeah, I totally get it. I agree. Glad that we left. So I haven't seen the whole movie. I've seen the first one to its completion, but I have not yet watched the full second one.
Send you guys the Blu-ray to Waterworld.
Oh yeah, that one. When I was a kid, I was a pretty big fan of that one.
Yeah, the jet skis were underwater. It was incredible.
Yeah, and then you go to Universal Studios and see the live action like show that they did. Oh, bro. We're telling a lot of stories here, but I went to Universal Studios in Hollywood, I believe, and I was very amped to see the Waterworld show. And
Kevin Costner was there. It was amazing.
Yeah, he wasn't there. And we went to the Waterworld show, and my mom, I was like 4 or 5 at this point in time, and my mom put sunscreen on me, and like a portion of the Waterworld show would like splash water on you, and we were in like the splash zone, as they called it, and they splashed water on me, and I got sunscreen in my eyes and like lost my goddamn mind. And I remember my mom had to take me to a drinking fountain outside of the Waterworld show and like wash my eyes out. So I missed a big portion of the Waterworld show, and I was fucking devastated, dude.
That sucks. Maybe we can get a recording of it or something for you.
Oh, don't worry. I've watched.
Okay.
I watched the recording of it. Yeah,
I read the book, just to let you know.
There's a book?
Yeah, I've read it.
Okay. Is it good?
It's like an exact retelling of the.
All right. That was a weird movie.
Yeah,
it was a very divisive movie.
It was. I don't think it was very good.
No.
But, they can't all be winners. All right. Well, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna come back. We'll check in on Dragons Dogma and multiple flavors of Arnold Palmer's.
Yeah.
All right, we are back. We've talked about these on the show before. I know we have.
Yeah, I think so.
These Arnold Palmer's, like, they are very easy and pleasant to have in the summer. I know I've supplemented them in the past. I don't remember what with, if it was vodka or tequila. Probably vodka.
That's my go-to with these.
So I actually, I was at the grocery store and I'm like, I need to get some drinks for today. And I went over there to get lime Ritas. I was going to bring that for the show. And then I saw these and I saw that they had more flavors and I was like, what? Oh my God. And so now I've got strawberry and you've got raspberry. And I can say that this is pretty much on par with the quality of the other one.
Yeah, this one, the raspberry one's good. I like it. Like
Mhm.
it tastes like Lipton raspberry tea. You put a little bit more booze in this, you're
Yeah.
off to the races. Yeah, I don't know. I might like this more than the regular one, to be honest with you.
Yeah, these things really. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but you add like one shot to them, and suddenly you've got a pretty good cocktail.
You put it in a mason jar and call it a day.
And yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. There is something about it that's just enjoyable. It blows fucking twisted tea out of the water. Twisted tea's got this like weird aftertaste that's gross, like very chemically. And there's not a lot of that with this.
I don't think I've ever even had one of those.
You haven't gotten twisted
I
before?
don't think so.
Well, you're not missing out on much.
Okay.
I mean, I put vodka in those too.
You haven't gotten twisted.
You've never been twisted,
No.
my man?
Did you ever ice people? Is that a thing you ever participate in?
Yeah, I participated in that a few times. It's pretty dumb.
I never got to work at an office where people would like open up a drawer and be like, "Oh, you got him."
Yeah, never worked at an office that did it, but like some of our mutual friends did it a bit. There's one guy in particular that was really into it. Like he got really, really into it. And he was
just doing it all the time.
Yeah, he really did it a lot for like a good portion of time. And like to his credit, he was pretty good at like hiding it in like places that he knew that you were going to look, or like your belongings where you were forced to do it. And you got iced, and then you were supposed to chug the Smirnoff Ice there. You know what? I don't have a problem with Smirnoff Ice, honestly.
You were just like, "Ooh, yeah."
Well, I don't know.
Yes, I will.
I don't know if I was like
it.
stoked about it, but like I don't think that like the flavor is offensive. It's fine. It's okay. And when I was like very young, like, you know, like 16 years old, I was like, but give me some Smirnoff Ice and have a good time. You know what I mean? There are like ones that were before my time, like Zima. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Have you had a Zima?
Isn't there no alcohol in Zima?
No, Zimas are for sure full of alcohol. Yeah.
O'Doul's
is a non-alcoholic beer.
Maybe that's
Zimas were like wine coolers. In like the nine. Yeah, Boone's Farm.
Okay.
That was like bigger wine bottles. Those were pretty intense too, because you would just like get one and it's like, I don't think I should drink like this whole thing, but that was the thing you did.
Like, but that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the goal. You're just like 90 grams of sugar later, you're feeling pretty gross.
You know what my thing was to do? Like I ice people. I like the thing where everyone would have a glass beer bottle and you take yours and you hit it on the top. And then theirs foams up and they have to chug the whole thing.
And then you scream, "Consume!"
I was super into that, like at parties when I was in college, right?
That's just a dick move, honestly.
Yeah, but in the environment, like these days, if I come over to your
if you
house,
consume me now,
if
I'd
I
be
come
like,
over
what
to
the
your
fuck?
house and we're enjoying a whiskey and you crack a beer and I walk up and hit it, like, yeah, that's a super dick move to do. But like in the party setting, it was fine. But so I did it, and then we do it all the time. And then one time I did it to one of our good friends and broke my bottle because I did it so hard, I guess, and slit my whole hand. And slit my hand. The whole thing fell. And he just looked at me. He's like, "You deserve every bit of this." And then I think I stopped doing it because of the risk.
Yeah. I was never really good at like pranking my friends or our friends. There was like a culture of pranking, especially like, well, you guys were like in your mid 20s and I was like a very young 20 year old. And a lot of those pranks were usually at my expense because I was like the young kid in the group. But there was one situation in particular where I was sharing like hotel rooms with a lot of our friends, and we got into this like sequence of events where we would fill up like ice water or buckets of ice from the hotel room
in the garbage can and lean it up against the door.
No, like just like the actual ice bucket, and then come in while someone was showering and like pour it over their heads while they were showering. And
that's fun.
Yeah, and like everybody did that to me like multiple times. And towards the end of this trip, I was like, I'm gonna fucking get this one motherfucker back. That's done it to me like 6 times since we've been on this trip. And I went to do it, and I popped the door open because he had it locked. So I like jimmied the lock, and I went to pour the bucket of ice over his head, and he heard the lock pop, and he slammed the door, and my big toe was in the door jamb, and it exploded. Like it was so fucking bad, dude. Like my toe was fucking destroyed. Which made it worse. So I was like in pain, like walking around, and I hadn't taken my sock off. And I was just like, fuck, dude. Oh, that was really bad. That really hurt. And one of our friends was like, which toe is it? Which toe is it? And I was like, it's this one. And he was like, oh, and then just came up and just stomped on it, which made it worse. And then I took my sock off, and it was like bleeding profusely and was like very fucked up. And I remember the dude that stomped on it was just like mortified.
I've done some
like,
damage.
Oh my God. He was like, I'm so sorry.
What are you going to do?
So that sucked pretty bad. And it took like at least a year for my toe nail to grow in normally. And yeah, so I was never very good at the pranking. The pranking was not I was the one getting pranked rather than pulling off the pranks, we'll say.
I think my best prank was when our friends had given me a key to their house, and this was a party house during college.
Yeah.
And me and 3 friends, we just showed up with a keg at 7 a.m. and we went in and we sat in their living room, and they wandered out around 9, and they're like, what the fuck you doing? And we were like, well, it's kegger today. And everyone knows but you, and people are coming. And people started rolling in around like 11 a.m, and they were just like, I have to work today. It's happening. So fucking work it out. I don't know.
This is good times, man. That's hilarious. Did the person stick around?
Not the one that had to work, but the other ones did.
Nice.
And it was a great time. It was a successful party.
You broke the law to have a party.
It's just like totally fine. Oh, all right. But Dragons Dogma 2.
Yeah.
Finished it?
No, I have not finished it.
Still out there doing your thing.
Still plugging along. Yeah. I wanted to talk specifically about the end game of Dragon's Dogma.
Because you're deep into this thing at this point.
Oh yeah. Well, so like, I guess I technically have finished it. There are like 2 different points that you could say, like, I've seen credits roll, but there is more that happens. There's
narratively.
There's a true ending. And it's batshit crazy, Nick. Okay. So just a little bit of like update from our previous talk. Since we talked last, I've went through like the vast majority of the game, seen a lot of things that are tucked away that you are not going to see. Like there is no indication, no quest giver that's going to say, hey, go and do this. And they are like massively important and massively consequential and very long form quests that you will embark on and do.
How?
Well, in a myriad of different ways.
Just impactful.
Super impactful across the board. Some of them are like, I would say, especially if you want to get deep into the end game, like requirements. And like, there's nothing, there might be some flavor text. Like some guy will be like, hey, have you seen the Sphinx riddle that's up in the mountains? I don't know what's going on with that, but it's not like, oh, I talked to this guy and now it's marked in my journal and now I have like some understanding.
This is Dark Souls level thing.
Yeah.
You've been like, I owned a castle once.
Yep.
Like a whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. So there are very important things that you have to do, and so much to see in this game that is not a part of the main storyline and not a side quest that you're gonna find from a quest giver. It's just straight up in the fucking wilderness
and worthwhile to see.
Supremely worthwhile and incredible in some instances. I highlight the Sphinx quest. The Sphinx quest is probably the best example of that. It's this whole ass quest that you go and find this like crazy ass Sphinx in the mountains, and she starts giving you these like riddles, and there's a number of riddles that you have to solve, and every riddle that you solve gives you a reward, very important rewards, and then her bitch ass flies away, and then you have to find her again, and she's like on the other side of the map, tucked away in this like very hidden area that is very difficult to find. Like if you didn't know where to look, you probably wouldn't find her You could explore and organically find her. I found her organically the first time and then had no idea where the fuck she went. And then I was like, and she told me, she's like, I have more riddles for you. And I was like, okay,
good luck.
But I want to highlight some of the things with that quest line because I think they're bullshit. Okay. There are these things called seeker tokens, and you find them out throughout the world. And then if you go and turn them into the guild master, he will give you rewards. There's 280 seeker tokens on the map. They are incredibly well hidden. They blend in almost like camouflaged in the environments certain times. So they're very difficult to find. The easiest way to find them is at night, but traversing the environment at night is fucking treacherous because you have this little piddly ass lantern, and sometimes you can just walk off of a goddamn cliff because you can't see that well in the dark. There is a spell that, like, if your pawn has it or you're a mage, that will that turns, like, it's a like light that basically turns on above you, and it lasts for a certain amount of time. But most of the time, you're relying on this lantern. So the seeker tokens, you find them, and they give you really good rewards. They're like tiers. Like, you find 20, you get a reward.
Sure.
Find 80, you get a reward. But through these riddles that this fucking Sphinx gives you, one of them is go and find the first seeker token you found in the environment in 7 days in game time.
And you have to remember when you found your first one?
Well, yeah, if you knew about this quest when you found the first one. But here's the problem. There's no explanation of where you went the first time. Like, there's no marker on the map. There's no way, no indication to tell you what fucking token you found to begin with, right? And here's the kicker. You have 7 in-game days, right? Every single time you rest at an inn or camp, and rest until daytime. If it's nighttime, you lose a day. If you make it to 7 days, you cannot complete the quest. The quest is locked. It's done. It's over with. And so...
Did you find it?
Yeah, I found it. But I was like really, really worried. I got to day 6 and I was just like panicking. Yeah. Because I had read about a lot of the things that this quest giver, the Sphinx, gives you. And I was just like, dude, there's no way I'm going to I was like out in the wilderness, just like following a guide for like, because I went on Reddit.
So you were just like, check them.
No, you can't look up where they are. That's the thing. There's no marker once you find them. They don't show up on the map at all. So you have no indication of where they're at.
But can't you look up where they are, like on Google, I'm saying? Like, can't you look up like a massive map that's like, here's where they all are. If you don't know which one, just start and check them out.
So I went on Reddit and there was a dude that was like, here is the first 80 in like the starting area. So statistically, it's like 99% chance that one of them is going to be here. But even that, because of the slow traversal rate in this game and the map being fucking massive, it takes a long time to go from point to point. And, as a byproduct of this, I got a lot of seeker tokens that I didn't have, which was great. Got some sweet items.
How do you, and then did it register as soon as you finally found it?
You have to go back to the Sphinx and you have to show the Sphinx
Yeah, but did you know you found it when you picked it up?
Yes.
When you picked it up, it said, hey, you got it. And you're like, oh, thank God.
Yes.
Okay.
It basically shows different flavor text.
Oh, right.
And it's like, this is the first one you found, right? And so that
was dumb mechanic.
That sucks. It really sucks. It sucks. But like, this is the thing, like, this thing is unapologetically itself, right? And like the developers made it this way and they're like, fuck you. We don't care if you like it or not. Like, people are going to like this thing, and fuck you if you don't like it. We don't really care. This is the thing we made, right? So I respect it from that perspective. So that's just a little of backstory. I maxed out all vocations, which was a really actually pretty satisfying experience because there is a lot of variation in depth from build to build, right? And so that was satisfying to do.
You maxed them all out, and then you were like, well, which one do I play now?
Yeah.
And which one did you choose?
I am a Mystic Spear Hand. That's what I'm using.
Okay.
It's a pretty good, like, dual blade. It's got some really good properties, defensive properties in particular. One of the abilities that you can equip makes a defensive bubble around your entire party, which prevents damage for a short amount of time. Hugely helpful for some of the tougher fights in the game. So yeah, that's the one that I've landed on. But I also like I like the sorcerer a lot. I like the magic bow caster. Not the archer, like the base archer, but there's one that's called like the magic bowcaster. That's really cool as well. So I've done that. I've grinded a fuckload of money because you need a lot of money if you're going to do the end game appropriately, which took a long time. As I highlighted in the first discussion we had about this game, things are not cheap in this game. The economy's bad in Dragons Dogma, and inflation is high. And they're for one piece of gear, you might spend 50,000 gold, right? And it might take you an hour to accrue 50,000 gold. I got around 500,000 gold.
Okay.
So I did a lot of gold grinding. There are ways to like mitigate it and make it a little bit easier. But this was all in preparation of this final end game point. Oh, I should also add that I built out like a fast travel network. There are port crystals, like I told you. You get a good amount of port crystals throughout the game. I think you can get 5. If you trick the Sphinx, you can get an extra one. Like there's wacky shit like that. Like one of the riddles she tells you is bring me your most valuable item, and like you have no idea why she wants it, but then you give it to her and she takes it from you, and then you get like something in return that's not good, and you're like, what the fuck?
I got fucked. Yeah, fucked by the Sphinx.
But then turns out she duplicates whatever item you give her, and then she gives them both back to you, which is like a little tip to get an extra port crystal, which is really, really helpful. So yeah, I created a fast travel network throughout the game. I put a port crystal in all the most important areas of the map, and then once you have all of that done, and also you maxed out your gear as much as possible, that is done by fighting these dragons that come around. They're usually in like the base game the hardest enemies that you're going to fight. They're pretty tough fights. They are somewhat trivialized towards the end. You can kind of fuck them up pretty easily, but when you first encounter them, boy oh boy, they are tough. But they drop these crystals that then you go to this old haggard ass man that lives in a cave, and he will upgrade your equipment above like the standard level that you can upgrade your equipment. So one extra level. So that's one of the prerequisites as well. Once you've had all that done, you can venture into the end game. And man, I have not seen an end game like this in a video game ever. It is fascinating and probably the strongest aspect of this game. And since I have been playing it, it has completely changed. I like this game, but I was just like, it's just so fucking like tedious and just a lot of things that push you away from liking it. But like, I still love it. I don't know. It's like this weird feeling that I have. But the end game is a crazy thing. So one of the criticisms I had at the beginning was like, the map is large and it takes a long time to get from like top of the map all the way to the bottom of the map. You're looking at probably 30 to 45 minutes of real time to get to the bottom, right? So it takes a long time to traverse. But when you've got the map pulled up, there is like this big area that's just inaccessible, and because it's the ocean. But you're like, why did
they do this?
Why is the ocean so big on this map? And then like just this like crust essentially of area that I can walk, and like it just is a weird map design, and you're just like, what the fuck, this is weird. So when you get to endgame, the ocean dries up and that entire area is now a walkable, explorable area, which is where most of the end game takes place. So what's happening in the end game is the world is essentially ending, and you get quests that are given to you at the beginning of the end game that say, hey, the world's fucking ending. You have 12 days to fix this. And because you're the Arisen and you've taken out the dragon that stole your heart at the beginning of the game, you're the only person that can fucking solve this, right? So what happens in this, and it's fascinating, is this thing essentially turns into a roguelike, which is crazy. If you die, you start at the beginning of the end game, right? You don't lose anything, but any progress that you made,
you gotta go do it again.
You got to do it all over again. You have 12 days, 12 in-game days, and what's happening on the map is there's these
so you can fail the end game.
Yeah, but you can restart it as many times as you want.
Okay.
So like it's like a run. It's like I'm going to start my run.
Got it. Okay.
And I've got to work through this. So this is crazy, but like I got a lot of vibes of like, and I've seen a lot of people comparing it to Majora's Mask because it's like you got a time limit, and this is you got to do it in this set amount of time. Throughout the game, you could rest at inns and campsites, and if you did that, it would heal you, which was very important when in the open world, right? Because I've highlighted the open world is huge and it takes you a long time to traverse it. All of the enemies in the end game are like cranked up to 11. They're very, very difficult. But if you take them down, they net you crazy good rewards. So like the fast travel consumable, the fairy stone, not a problem anymore. I've got like 25 of those motherfuckers at this point in time. Everything across the board. The worm crystals that I explained that allow you to level up your equipment with the guy in the cave. That stuff starts dropping like fucking candy.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah,
You're in the end game. They open up the gates.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, all that shit, it's now readily available. You can do whatever you want. You've earned it. Here you go.
So the goal that you're tasked with is to go to the settlements that you've already explored, and including this ocean bed area, and rescue the denizens of the environment, right?
So not all of the end game is in that ocean area.
No,
it's
the entire map, including this ocean portion. And this is the other thing that comes to mind: a battle royale. Randomly, sure. It reminds me of a battle royale in the way that so these areas, you are timed on how quickly you can get to them, and there's this giant like tornado that is like engulfing settlements, right? And if you wait too long to get to a settlement, the fucking tornado thing engulfs a settlement and takes away all of the NPCs and kills everyone, right? Then you cannot save them. And it slowly starts to narrow down the longer you take, to the point that it is like a small circle, just like a battle royale. And so you have to fucking do this fast. And so me highlighting the fact that the port crystals are super important because you set up a network before you get into the end game, and those port crystals stay there so you can fast travel freely. But
as you're in the end game, you get more, so you could even build that out a little further.
Not port crystals. You get fairy stones. Got it. Yeah. So you set up the port crystals before you go into end game, in like all the major points that you want to be in. And then you use the fairy stones to travel between them. Got it. And that's how you kind of speed through this as fast as possible. It's not easy though. The enemy, and I kind of love it because of that.
You're not done?
No, I'm not done. I've died quite a few times, like 3 or 4 times now since I've tried it. And then you got to start all the way from the beginning. Right.
I wonder how long that it is to do it.
Well, there are certain things that you can do that are persistent, like leveling up your gear. So once you get to that point, there are 3. Before that, there were only one way to upgrade your weapons and your equipment. But once you get to this point in the end game, you can level up your equipment, and in 4 different ways. There's like human upgrades, elven upgrades, dwarven upgrades, and one other one that I'm missing. And they all provide different stat increases to your gear. So that's how you're like creating a build, essentially. That's persistent, even if you die. So if you upgrade the equipment and you have to start over again, you get that persistent upgrade, essentially, right?
Got it.
And so it's really like a speed run to see how quickly you can get through the whole thing and save as many people as possible, save them all, and then fight a big boss at the end, right? But it's very challenging, like, and I love that. I mean, the game is pretty challenging for the duration, like in the regular base game, but you get to a certain point where you're just super OP, and at that point in time, it's like, this is pretty trivial. I'm fucking just wrecking whatever I run into. That is not the case least in the end game. Even like, and you see new enemy types as well, right? Like there's completely new enemy types that show up in the end game that are fucking very difficult to take down, very hard. And again, you cannot rely on camping. So if you camp, you get nothing. So you just don't camp. You can recover your health through consumables, through spells that your pawn or yourself have as equipped, and by resting in inns only, right? So before you could rest at camp, it would revive you, and it would also give you like a checkpoint, essentially. So if you died, you'd go back to that checkpoint. That's not the way it works. So the inns only serve as a point if you're like low on consumables, which you absolutely will become low on consumables, to allow you to heal up your party and yourself. But still, if you die, you start from the fucking beginning. So it's brutal and fascinating. And I've never seen an end game like this in a video game. Like, it is crazy that they did this.
Very unique. And it's very like the game functioned a certain way for an like most of the game, and then to flip it on its head there in the end game is kind of cool. It's
I think it's really the thing to talk about.
How many hours are you into this thing?
Like 70.
Okay.
I think it's really the thing to talk about for this game. It is not that I had a negative opinion of it, but you know, and I still would sit here and like critique and criticize some of the things that I think are cumbersome and like very archaic for modern game design to implement. But it's fascinating, dude. Like, it is a weird thing that, like, man, it's going to be hard to when we're like, you know, collecting our thoughts on video games that we like the most to exclude this one, because I've just never seen anything like this. It is so unique and such a like interesting spin on.
And we just don't see this in the AAA space as much either.
No, it's fucking wacky and weird and batshit crazy, and I kind of love it.
Huh.
So yeah, I'm gonna bang my head against the wall. I'll finish it for sure. I have definitely made like really good progress on
close,
it.
Right?
Yeah, there's like an optimal path to get it done. I didn't want to just like look up a guide and say this is where you go first, then you go here, and then you go here, and this is how you solve it. I wanted to at least like organically explore it and see if I could get through it. And I've made good progress in my runs up to this point. But yeah, it's not like it will probably take you 10 to 15 hours, but like if you were doing it optimally, you could do it probably in like 2 hours.
Okay. And that was what I was wondering. Like, when you finally do it, like your one run, how long does that run last? Like, to complete it?
Well, it's really dependent on like gear checks as well, right? Like you have to have your gear at a certain level to even stand a chance.
But eventually you're going to beat it.
Yeah.
And the run that you beat it, I'm just curious how long that run is.
Yeah, probably an hour or two.
Yeah.
If you're doing it optimally, you're going from the right point to the right point. You've set up your fairy stones to the right points, or port crystals to the right points, and you just doing it optimally. It's not going to take you very long. But again, like, to get to that point, there are like enemies that stop you from getting to those points. So you have to really have your build worked out. And like, I don't want to say that there was no min-maxing in the base game, but in the end game, you absolutely have to min-max, and like you have to have the right build for your character and your pawn that sticks with you. Like, that has to happen.
Everything's got to be firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, if you're playing this game and you're interested in doing the end game, like, make sure you check boxes. You got a robust travel system set up. You got a lot of gold, because there's armor and gear that shows up in the end game that you absolutely want for whatever build you're running. And it's expensive, so you need a lot of gold. And then you need to be fully upgraded as much as you possibly can before you go into endgame with the gear that you have. Because like, even having the gold that I had, like, I didn't completely kit out my character with endgame gear with the gold that I had. And I had like 500,000 gold, right? And so and then you have to worry about your pawn as well, right? And so, yeah, the one of the saving graces that helps it is like if you played the game like I did, like RC is the currency that you use to summon the additional 2 pawns from like other people. And you don't have to spend any RC if you are hiring a pawn that is at your level or below. The only time you spend RC is if you hire a pawn that is higher than your level.
Mm-hmm.
So like throughout the game, I just stockpiled RC. So I had a shitload of it. And so when I got to end game, I was like, oh, I'm just going to hire like a pawn that's like
Sure.
quite a bit higher than me to like take the edge off. But it's still been brutally challenging, and I kind of love it. Really cool.
That is cool.
I've never seen anything like this in a game.
Sounds weird.
It's super weird, dude.
Huh.
But yeah, I mean, I think I've had a great time with Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm ready to be done.
Let's wrap this thing up.
Yeah, but definitely a solid effort after a long hiatus for this series. So I'm sure it's not going to be anytime soon that we see a new game. I'm sure they'll roll out DLC. I mean, Dark Arisen was a massive expansion from what I understand. I'm sure they'll do something similarly with this. But there's a lot to sink your teeth into. And I've seen people that are like hundreds of hours in.
Damn.
Really just min-maxing, getting as strong as fucking possible with this loop. And then also once they finish the end game, then you can go to New Game Plus and do it all over again with everything that you have, right? So
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty fucking cool.
It's good. It's good to see. I mean, I feel like that was a risky game, so it's good to see it. I think it's done well. As far as I guess I don't know.
I don't think they've released numbers on it, but I'm sure it has.
Hopefully. I've still sinking time into fucking Balatro, and I feel like I'm learning a lot about that game, like how to really break it, or at least I thought I was breaking it. I sent you a text during the week. I was like, yeah, I fucking broke it, because I had like this build that I kind of learned how to create your jokers and do the multipliers right, because there's just there's multipliers that just add up, and then there's X multipliers. If you put at the end, it just times that number by X amount. And that's how you just get these extraordinarily high numbers. Like I finished a run with like no stress, and then you go into like endless mode. And I was just like, I'm just never like, they're never going to get me, because I was crushing it so much. But endless mode ramps up so fast. And I looked at the tiers and where it goes. And I'm going to date myself a little bit, but have you ever fucked around with a calculator and you times it by a number in such a way?
Boobies on a calculator? Is that what you're going to say?
No.
Oh, okay.
Like you do a calculation on a calculator that gets so big that at the end it just says like E, and it tells you like how many zeros to put on the end or something.
Sure.
Balatro gets to that point where it's just like, yeah, what do you have to get for the blind? It's like 100 million E4. So good luck. But you're like, all your shit's so out of control at this point.
Have you unlocked like all of the decks?
I have one. No, but I have one more deck to unlock. That is kind of on the base difficulty. Okay. So like I haven't gone up in difficulty yet.
Okay.
So I've only, I've unlocked decks, been completing. I have one more to do, and then I think the only way I can unlock more is to raise the difficulty. And when you raise the difficulty, that first blind no longer gives you money. And then I unlock challenge mode, and this thing really is it just has that feeling that I mentioned before about Vampire Survivors, of just the unlockables, of just constant like, well, what do I do next? Well, I gotta do this thing, and these modifiers are gonna make me go down this thing. I kind of feel like it's a game I will keep playing for a long time, because it's just an easy one when you are having a bad day or anything, or you don't have the bandwidth to process an RPG. You're just like, I could fucking play poker. And my wife was just like, "You just play poker now? That's just your thing?" I'm like, "Leave me alone."
Does she understand that it's like not
No,
poker?
we haven't even really gotten into like the details.
Gotcha.
I was just like, it's more complicated.
She thinks that you're just sitting over there playing
It's just
solitaire.
like, yeah, I don't know. That thing's cool. That thing's really cool. I'm not going to talk about any more of Persona 3 today. I have played probably another 10 hours. When are we going to get next Persona?
Well, there was like a lot of rumblings recently. There was
Color.
Yeah, it was a color. Yeah, you
green.
read that.
I
Yeah.
think or something. Yeah.
Yeah, they like, I think it was like 25-year anniversary, and
Yeah.
they did this really cool picture of like all of the previous protagonists. And I didn't really put this together, but like when I thought about it and was like explained to me, I was like, oh yeah, like that's true. Every single like mainline Persona game has had like a primary color that they have kind of latched onto, and that's been kind of the vibe of each game. So like Persona 3 is blue,
Persona 5's red, right?
Persona 5's red, Persona 4 is yellow, right?
Got it.
And in this photo with all these protagonists from previous games, they're like standing in front of a wall that's kind of got like graffiti or something like that on it, and there's like a little like swash of paint on each of the protagonists, with the color that was represented in the game. And next to Persona 5's protagonist, there is this green swash. And so people had like theory crafted that was like what was going on for a while. Or it's not even a swatch. I think it's a bucket of paint that's green.
Got it.
And so it's coming. I think we get an announcement probably this year, I would guess. And I think it comes out next year.
Is that and Jesus, what's the Dragon
Quest?
Yes, Dragon Quest. That's
okay.
I would think that we would get some info in the next 12 months.
Yeah, that's been like, they haven't even announced Persona 6, and they announced the new Dragon Quest
3 years ago.
Yeah, 2 or 3 years ago. So we definitely should be getting something on both of those. So that's really exciting because I am a big fan of both of those series. So yeah, that's promising for sure.
Absolutely. I think that's going to do it. Do you have anything else you need to add onto this thing, or have we?
I don't think so, man.
Okay.
I think it was a tidy podcast. We did it.
We did it. It's a
good 420 podcast.
Just a hair slow, but I think we've got a few things that'll be rolling out in the near future. I wanted to play that new Moon Studios game, but I didn't realize it was early access.
Yeah.
And then I was immediately not as excited.
Yeah. And then people are not happy about it.
No, I saw there's a bunch of issues that I really didn't play. And then I was almost excited about Frostpunk 2. And then I saw that's beta, but that game's coming out in July. And I just said, I'm going to wait. But I'm very excited for that game too.
At least that's coming out this year.
Sure.
Yeah, the No Rest for the Wicked stuff has been pretty contentious from what I've seen. I was about to buy it, and then I read it's currently sitting as mixed on Steam, which like I don't take a lot of stock in because people are whiny fucking assholes.
Also, if it's early access, like that's not even, I don't even know what that means. Like, it's early access.
Yeah, it came out yesterday, and like all of the negative reviews are like 0.2 hours, and they're like, "Oh, these things need to be fixed." And it's like, you haven't even played it 10 hours. Like, how are you like giving this like really deep breakdown of mechanics and what they need to do better? It's just fucking gross, and I hate it. But yeah, I don't know. I with something like this, like Baldur's Gate is a perfect example. Like that thing was out for a long period of time, and like I bought it right when it came out, like in early access, and never played it because like it just doesn't seem like a game, like especially now when you compare it to what it became, it's like, man, I'm glad that I didn't fucking play that in early access because that thing is fucking special in its final state. So like you got to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. It's going to take a long time for it to probably get to the point where you're like, this is a good game. So, but there are some people out there that are like, this is a good game. And like, I think it's a very cool mix of genres, and like they've got something really cool here. And so I can't wait to see what they do with it in the next months or years. Hopefully it's not in early access for like 3 years.
Yeah,
that would suck. Hopefully it's like, maybe next year they do 1.0 and you know.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, that's going to do it. That is episode 132. You should probably come and join the Discord. There should be a link that you can click on, come in here and tell us about your experiences, what games you're playing. And I was going to start and put when we make cocktails, I was going to try to put that recipe in the notes as well, because maybe people would want that. So that will be in there. You can look at it. That's going to do it. That's 132. Thanks, guys.